Coming in off of another awesome day yesterday. Going to be touching on that at the start of the video, then getting into the Boston versus Heat game, which are the best props for that game, then touching on a couple of PGA props, and then we do have a hitting fantasy score prop that is standing out as well. Let's get into it. All right, so looking at the recap from yesterday, and as you guys know, I don't typically like to look at the previous day's results. That just creates a lot of fluff in there. I like to do it when it is more of a learning moment, okay? If you guys want to see the results from the bet of the day, it is in the link in the description below. Been awesome, especially during this 3-week stretch. It's been my second best stretch giving picks out to you guys in terms of units won. There was a 3-day stretch in there where there's just insane value with some of the golf lines where it was like a 5 out of 5 and a 6 out of 6 day. That was the best stretch. This 3-week stretch has been awesome because it's been little stuff like this just adding up over time. But yeah, this 4-hit bet right here was awesome in the sense that these lines were available throughout the day. So you're able to use it on the morning taco. You're able to use it on the evening taco. And then the only one that was taken away before lineup lock was the gray prop right here. So you're able to use 3 of those props for the tacos. So a very awesome day. And that's kind of my point, is that to take the favorable lines that we have, bet them all individually. And this is where, if you have been doing this strategy, maybe you've been winning 2 units here, 3 units there, maybe losing 1 unit. But eventually this day was going to happen by just doing it smart, by betting it smart. And if you guys are curious about that strategy, just make sure to watch the Taco Tuesday video. That's linked in the description below as well, or you can find it on the channel. But I felt like this was a good example of kind of why we do that, because in the long term, it's going to be a successful process. And as a lot of you guys know, that is what I'm shooting for, is the long-term profit. Make the correct decisions day in and day out, and you'll be successful. Let's get into the picks for today. And man, guys, I hate talking about results like that. I don't know, it just sounds cocky. I feel like the audience knows that it's been a great run. And honestly, when I watch other videos, which I don't do very often, but whatever, I just want to get into the action. So enough fluff, let's go. Looking at today's slate, we got Miami versus Boston. Boston is favored to win by 8 points. My kind of golden rule is when it gets to 7.5 points, I start to worry about a blowout. And man, yesterday got me worried as well. Thankfully, the Lakers were able to come in, close the gap, and make sure that it wasn't a blowout game, because I would have been so mad if another slate was impacted by a game that was a blowout. That is what's looking like could happen today. Okay, the game over and under is set at 211, so not terrible, especially when looking at these two teams. I actually thought it would be in like the 208 range, so very nice there, that there could be a little bit more production than I expected. So maybe there's a little bit of room to attack it, but just looking at this game spread, we're probably wanting to attack more of the Boston overs and then more of Miami's under. We'll see if the cheat sheet agrees with that. Let's go ahead and start out with the Miami Heat. Oh, and I have the screen still up, so this is kind of a good example of it as well, guys. Like, just betting them individually, these good bets will add up in the long term, okay? And that's how I treat Taco Tuesday. It's kind of a free money, free promotion day in terms of profit, because if you do it correct in the long term, they're just giving you free money, and that's how I like to treat it. This is low-key kind of strange, but this is probably Bam's best matchup thus far this playoffs, and so maybe that's something we look at. Obviously going against Brook and Giannis. I guess Giannis was out for 2 games, but the Bucks, obviously they're good rim protectors. The Knicks have been one of the best teams, if not the best team, protecting the rim. And then, well, Miami's a good team as well. I feel like that's a trend, is that these teams that are good against centers, guarding centers, they're all the teams that make the playoffs and actually made some deep runs in the playoffs. Kind of just an interesting thing there. Maybe something worth noting for other teams. But now it's Boston, who, don't get me wrong, they're the 4th toughest matchup for opposing bigs. That just tells you just how difficult of matchups Bam has had. But if he continues to get 39, 38 minutes, I do think the over fantasy points could be a way to go. But when did I start this video off with saying? It was that we should be a little bit worried about this game blowing out, given the fact that it is an 8-point spread. And so if that occurs, obviously it's going to be much more difficult for someone like Bam to be able to get to his over and under, or to get to his over. That is definitely more of a bet of, if you think this game stays close, I would believe it's going to be because of Bam. And then I don't know how you guys feel about Kyle Lowry, but I do feel like if he continues to get more and more run, he could be definitely an interesting option for today's slate. The question is, where do we bet him? I think it would be fantasy score. And once again, like, if this game does stay close, I do think it'd be because of someone like Kyle Lowry having a good game. And so I bring that up because he does need to get those minutes to be productive. 31 minutes the last 2 games, 26 minutes in the previous game, 25 minutes in the previous game. One of those games was a blowout, so tough to really say why that was. But he's been productive in all these games. So if he does continue to get 31 minutes, which, think about it, the Boston Celtics, where are they deep? In the guard position. Okay, they got Smart, White, Brogdon, Brown. Okay, they go very deep there. And if they need to, they can turn to Peyton Pritchard. They won't do that, but they go deep in the guard position. So to me, I think that is going to lead to more minutes for the Miami Heat guards. And the one that would make the most sense to get minutes would be Kyle Lowry there. Like Gabe Vincent, he's probably going to need to get 31 minutes as well. The question is he going to continue to shoot just terribly? Okay, guys, 1 for 5, 0 for 3, 1 for 5, 0 for 4, 4 for 12. He has not shot the basketball well. Just plain and simple. The past 4 games, especially. And those were from 3-ball range. But if he's going to be productive, it's going to be because he's making some threes. And so that to me is something we could certainly be paying attention to, is that probably needs to get minutes. And so is there a prop that we can find for Gabe Vincent as well? And I would say, points is not a terrible prop. We could roll with that. And I was definitely hoping for a 3-point prop. We're not getting, 3 points attempted we're getting, but I was hoping we'd get like 1.5 threes made or something like that. Maybe even 0.5 threes made. I definitely would have taken that. But it does seem like we could potentially begin some sort of good prop with Gabe Vincent today. Once again, the issue with Miami for the overs, and I'm more mentally geared up to bet overs for the most part. That's just, I don't know how I operate. And so that's why I'm struggling with Miami today, is that the good bets that we probably would want to be on for Miami, the issue is that the game could blow out. And then if Vincent struggles, obviously going to be more of Strauss having a good game. If you want to bet one of them the over, one of them the under, I'd be fine with that. It just doesn't correlate too well. And then I am very interested just in general of if the matchup with Kevin Love and like Al Horford, if those two older bigs, are they going to be matched up together? I guess is my question. Are we going to see maybe a lineup with Tatum, Williams, and Horford on the court to match up with Jimmy Butler, Bam, and Kevin Love? I'm kind of interested in that. And I bring that up because if you guys have been following the picks, Al Horford and Kevin Love have just been struggling to shoot the basketball, which has been mind-numbing, making me want to pull out my hair. But yeah, those could be some good props for us as well. Let's just go ahead and check out the cheat sheet for some of those props that I mentioned for Miami. And I just kind of pulled up all the props for the Miami Heat players. So we can see they are kind of liking Bam for over points. That's fine. Gabe Vincent for points and rebounds. That could be a route that we can go. What's interesting is that the overs are all kind of favored here, which is a little bit shocking to me. The lines have been pretty tight. And so just kind of interesting there. Maybe Gabe Vincent for points and rebounds. That might be the way to apply that knowledge that I was just giving out. So this is kind of interesting. The average sportsbook line, as I'm pulling in, a lot of you guys know this comes from it varies at which time of day it is, but anywhere from 2 to 8 different sports books, we're pulling in the average sports book odds. So probably 1 or 2 of them is saying it's going to be closer to 30 points, rebounds and assists for Bam. So maybe a potential edge there, projected to get a little bit more. Maybe that's the route that you go with him instead of fantasy score. Although I just see him getting a block and not too many turnovers. So I probably still would want to go fantasy score there. Ooh, this is interesting here, guys, for Miami. Look at Gabe Vincent here. So his fantasy score, if we just taken the average sportsbook line that we are getting with him, and I find this extremely interesting, it's set at 17.25. The PrizePicks line is set 18.5. He's projected to get about 16. So maybe the under fantasy score for Gabe Vincent would be the way to go. Maybe if you're trying to find under for that game, that'd be the one you would want to go with. So now let's go ahead and we'll switch it up and get into the Boston side of the basketball. I'm just looking at the full slate, and we can see on the full slate, the best prop that we're going to get is going to be Derek White for over points. Now the reason, or the question is, why are we getting that as the best prop? Minus 137.75 to get over 7.5 points, projected to get 12.6. And the 12.6 projection is going to be based off of his season average. In the playoffs, he hasn't been really getting there frequently. And so I think that's why we're getting that low line that we are getting. Maybe that was just more of a matchup based thing. He just struggled against the Knicks. So let's go and pull it up on DraftKings just because I think it's a better, easier view. And so, yeah, his minutes have really just not been there at all. They've been deferring to a little bit more Malcolm Brogdon, as they should. And then obviously Marcus Smart as well. The question here is literally just how many minutes is he going to get? And what I find interesting is the last game against Philly, that game was a blowout and he still didn't get the minute. Tough to know exactly what to do here, but it is a new series and we could just see that kind of flipping again. And then he gets the over points. We can see on the season does average 12.5. So if he goes back to his role that he had at the start of the Philly series and against Atlanta, he should be able to get the over points. It could have just literally been a change that Philly had done that led to White not getting minutes. Now, we kind of all know that part of the reason why is because Malcolm Brogdon has played pretty well this playoff. Last game, he struggled a little bit, missed some bunnies, missed some close shots that he typically doesn't miss. And so his points, rebounds, and assists, really, this whole playoffs has been set at 21.5. And more times than not, he's going to be able to get over the 21.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And even in that game where he did miss some close shots, still got 12 points, 2 assists, 2 rebounds. So 16. Not that far off. It's a couple of easy made buckets and the game not blowing out, maybe in 2 more minutes or something. So I do think we could potentially run back to him. Now, the cheat sheet is suggesting that the Malcolm Brogdon prop, the one that we'd want to go with is rebounds. That's really going to be for you guys to decide. I think points, rebounds, and assists would be a good prop for him as well. And then we are seeing a little bit of differentiation there for the points and assists. So that could be a potential one that you roll with as well. Therefore, Malcolm Brogdon. Fantasy score as well, slightly there as well. And then I did just want to touch on some other props that we are getting on the day. We can see the Derek White prop has about a 54% chance to hit, kind of like that. So we can see the Malcolm Brogdon prop there has about a 53.1% chance to hit. I'd be fine with those ones. Those ones all work. Let's see here. Baseball wise, we're not getting that many good props just yet. The pitching props are all terrible. Let's see if we have any good hitting score ones, because guys, again, the top hitting score fantasy prop hit again yesterday. That's like 4 straight days. I haven't been keeping track of it, but I know for sure it's been the last 3 days, and it's crazy. I mentioned this. This seems to be the biggest edge that's going on right now, and it's really where we're looking for the edge. It's going to be where the projection is greater, and here we go, Bryce Harper, where the projection is greater than the PrizePicks line, and then the average sportsbook line for what the hitting score should be is also greater. And so we can see Bryce Harper is going to be the best hitting score prop on the day, and I believe he is going through a little bit of a hitting struggle. Let me just pull that up and see. Yeah, so a little tiny bit of a hitting slump over his past few games. So what's the point I'm trying to make? Probably due for a better game. Okay, hits here, that's great. Scored a run, that's great as well. Based on ball, but no RBIs. Probably due for an RBI or something. At the same time, guys, definitely due for the hitting score prop to finally miss. It's been a good stretch there. I do want to call some PGA props as well. I probably will be doing a separate video for this, but I just want to call this out as well. So looking at, we are getting a lot of PGA props. Let's go ahead and pull this up on the 9to5 props cheat sheet. And I haven't looked at the greens and regulation or fairways hit props just yet, so I'm actually curious to see if we're getting some good ones there. So first and foremost, I just want to see where we are getting the biggest differences in the prop to see if we're gaining any sort of edge there. And what I find very interesting is that Underdog is thinking that it's going to play much easier than PrizePicks is thinking. And from what I have noticed, PrizePicks for the most part has been a little bit better. And maybe the route to go would be to bet the over on Underdog. Now, the issue with that is that literally Jason Day is being undervalued by the fantasy golf industry. Son James and Ricky and Xander all kind of being undervalued by the fantasy golf industry. So for me, it's like tough to make those bets, because I personally, with my fantasy golf bets that I have out there on the week, and then DFS wise, I don't really want to cheer for them to hit over. So I'm personally probably not making those prop bets, but we can see those are probably the best ones to make on Underdog. Let's go on and flip it around. And so nothing too crazy in terms of the difference in between those two lines. Okay, so let's look at where we are getting the best edge on PrizePicks. And once again, yeah, so the major, this is very interesting. You could potentially bet the overstrokes for Scotty, for Rom on Underdog. If you're going to think they're going to struggle, that's where you do that. Now, 69 is only 1 under par. This is a major. The cut line is typically like +2, which means, typically speaking, golfers on average are finishing over par. And so that's going to be the worry. Like the event average per round is 72.6. Okay, so that's kind of my worry there. But those are world-class players. I would say, honestly, we could do that. That's a decent hedging situation where maybe you bet the over on Underdog and then the under on PrizePicks, maybe hedge a little bit there. Here we go. We're getting a decent amount of fairway hit props here. So you could potentially bet over fairways hit for Tony Finau and Xander Schauffele. The only issue I have with that is that, typically speaking, at the PGA Championship, these are events in which these longer drivers like Tony Finau, like Xander Schauffele, they are just going to bomb it down near the fairway. They don't really care if they hit the fairway. I mean, obviously they do. The rough is going to be thick. But the biggest thing with course conditions like this, playing on thick rough, is you need to be gaining length over the rest of the field. Because on average, these golfers know they're probably not going to have an insanely elite fairway hit day. And so they're just playing to their averages. And so the data would suggest bombing it deep. If you hit the fairway, great. If you don't, you're gaining 30 yards on some of the shorter hitters because the ball doesn't roll out as much. But yeah, as we can see, like PrizePicks much more tight with their lines. Okay, birdie or better. Could also do the unders here for those guys. It's tough. It's tough to see if that's really good. I do think 4 is probably the correct line personally, but you could bet the unders there. That's interesting. And obviously PrizePicks will pay out a push. Underdog will not. We do have smaller greens, so maybe that's why something like Patrick Cantlay's under prop is kind of being suggested as a good one. Let's go ahead and just get back into the PrizePicks board. I kind of get a good sense of where I want to be looking at for today. So I do think I'll be doing kind of those the hedge bets that I mentioned with Rom and Scotty. I think that's a decent way to make some profit. You're more or less betting on how the course is going to play in that regard. What I want to look at is going to be birdie or better matchups. And we are seeing some discrepancies in terms of who's expected to play well. You could do Patrick Cantlay for over birdies against DJ. There's kind of a big difference there. And then that being said, you could also do, like, if DJ struggles, like he has been, not being his normal self, I guess I should say, then Tony Finau should be able to get more birdies than him. I don't think that's exactly a lock and load, though. What I do like is like the discrepancy between Sungjae and Thomas Pieters. Sungjae is one of the best plays this week. Now, he needs to show up, and he typically, I shouldn't say typically, but majors have been kind of a flaw in his game lately. But I would say more times than not, Sungjae is going to beat Thomas Pieters in birdie or better percentage. Wyndham Clark as well. He should be able to dominate. I want to point this out. Wyndham Clark versus Adrian here. And then we also have another one with Wyndham Clark against Jason Day. Jason Day is one of the best plays in the field this week. So is Wyndham Clark. That to me is one that we want to stay away from. But we're essentially seeing that what the PrizePicks board is saying is we got Jason Day versus Adrian. And so what we would do there, we would bet the over for Jason Day. So might as well just bet the over for Wyndham Clark there. All right, so looking at my favorite bets for the day, we do have that hitting prop for Bryce Harper. You know, I'm just going to continue to roll with those until they really let us down. And we just haven't seen it happen yet. We do see that Derek White is going to be the best prop on the board. And we was able to point out that this is just based off of minute. Okay, there. Oh, you can't see that. Darn it. Okay, it's based off of minutes. The last 2 games, the minutes have not been there, so he hasn't really come close. If the minutes are there tonight, then I think he will get there. And if the minutes are there for Derek White, I think that increases the likelihood of Kyle Lowry getting minutes because, once again, the Celtics kind of go deep at the guard position. And so that might mean that Kyle Lowry is going to be forcing to gain those 31 minutes. Now, that's very much predicated on that game staying close enough for long enough. And so that's why I'm going lighter today. Okay, especially given the fact that we are coming off of a day in which yesterday the board was extremely tight and we were able to go 4 for 4. Went 6 for 8 the previous day. That was also a pretty tight board as well. Kind of. There were some good MLB props that we got throughout the day. That's why I put out the video. But it's just like data-wise, due to have a slight regression day. Okay, hitting 60% of today's bets is great and all, but coming off of 2 awesome days, that would suggest that we're going to have a regression day. And so that's why I'm going lighter today. And also, I just feel like I don't have the best feel for Miami versus Boston just yet. Obviously, as always, guys, if you have a bet that you think is going to be solid, let us know in the comment section below. All right, that's going to be all for today's video. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the coverage. If you did, give a like and subscribe. If you guys had a good day yesterday with the tacos as well, using the picks, feel free to send out a tweet as well. Be happy to retweet that. It's been a fun run. Let's continue it today. All right, let's have it say, and as always, let's keep cashing.